Hi everyone, I just thought I'd do a quick live. It's a bit late, but I'm on the Fraser Coast Chronicle page. I'll put the link for you after I've done the video. Okay, just waiting for Facebook to pop up that notification and see who's around. But I just thought I'd clear something because, okay, so for a lot of you who have been around with us for the last 3, 4, 5 years, you would be aware that over the time, every time there's been a card story, especially in our local Fraser Coast Chronicle or Bundaberg Newsmail, there's this man called Brian DeBranch. Okay, don't know who he is. Seems to know everything about nothing or nothing about everything. So his go-to line is he calls everybody a liar. So I was going to ignore his comments because, you know, Brian's got a butt in. He's the last of the staunch anti-LMP, anti-ALP, claims to not be LMP, claims to not be One Nation, but blames Labor for everything. Troll, right? And he's just about, his head's just about spun off on the post regarding Keith Pitt having a go to Albanese about Labor scrapping the cashless debit card. So tonight I was going through the comments. Brian had the audacity to call Mahalia a liar. She's trying to explain everything that she's been through. She put the videos up and the arsehole called her a liar. Excuse me, but yeah. Anyway, there's two trolls there. The other one is just being his normal lit himself. He's been around for 3 years on the pages, right? Brian's doing his, you can thank Labor for the basics card. You know, we all know Johnny Howard did that, made it compulsory. Labor wants to make it voluntary, of course. So, reading through the comments, right, I was disgusted that he just said straight out to Mahalia, I call you a liar. Unless you're on the ALP's basics card, the Indu card works as a standard debit card, able to use non-gambling, non-public. He's done this for bloody 3 years. I'm surprised he doesn't. There's two trolls and they're just rabbiting this, you know, the same script, you know. So I did respond to him, and then he's just responded to me, and I thought, nah, I'm going to say something here. He's calling me out. He goes to another person, Barbara, and me. He's tagged me. I can call you, and especially Catherine Wilkes, liars. It's especially funny that Catherine has a history of praising the basics card, despite it being this card, which actually does have the restrictions she falsely accuses the Indu card of having. All right. So then he goes back to the script. Okay, he goes back to the DSS script and he goes back to the merchant. That's interesting. He's put up his merchant facts. He's just, you know, he reckons he doesn't support the Indu system as it stands, right? But he's calling us liars. Anyway, so I said, interesting. Please show you where I support compulsory income management, a basics card, because I never have. All right. And there's plenty of videos here to prove it, isn't there, people? There's videos here. There's videos on my own timeline. All right. So I thought I'd just come on here and make it really clear. Okay. I do not support compulsory basics card. I have never supported any form of compulsory income management. I definitely don't support a privatised, corporatised, Indu cashless debit card. To me, that is selling people to a private company. Australians are being sold cheap at $12,000 setup fee and then $800 to $2,000 a year ongoing fees to Indu, right? You know, it's pathetic. So, but he can't grasp a simple thing. The only time I would talk about the basics card is if it's court ordered for child safety purposes. Now, that is a common sense thing to do. Or, lo and behold, if it's voluntary and the person wants to utilize that as a service and can get off of it if they don't like it, right? That's the only time I'd support basics card being in existence. It has to be voluntary program, okay? And it has to be easy to get off if a person doesn't like it. And the person needs to have informed consent and know exactly what they're getting into. And the difference between the basics card and the cashless debit card, right, is that the restrictions are bloody tough on the basics card. Don't get me wrong, all right? It's bloody horrendous. You've got a generation of people that don't know anything other, who have been asking for the choice. They've been asking for the choice to either come off it or stay on it. But they want the choice and they want it to be heard. And if you go back through our videos, and you'll see the Aboriginal communities when they were protesting against the cashless debit card, and their signs were very clear. They wanted choice and they wanted to be heard and listened to. Okay? Can't ask for people who deserve to be heard and have that choice. So for Brian to turn around and say that I support compulsory basics card is now an outlie. I never have, and I wouldn't, and I don't. Blanketing people, right? You go back to the beginning with John Howard, 2007, when he basically took over a basics card program that was voluntary, that had cooking classes, support workers, all wrapped around, that was asked for by a community of people, mainly First Nations women. Okay, it was voluntary, and if they saved up $1,500 in their account, because back then Indu couldn't hold money, it was returned back to their accounts. And I spoke to a lovely older First Nations elder from Alice Springs when I was in Canberra once, and she loved her basics card because she was able to stabilise her life. She volunteered for it. That's the big thing. She volunteered for it. She was able to save that $1,500 a time. She was able to withdraw that money, which enabled her to buy bigger items and nicer items for the house, right? And she had choices and she had supports. But then in 2007, right, John Howard rolls in with the bloody army, right? Strips all the supports away, strips away the Racial Discrimination Act, imposes the basics card on all First Nations people, which is discrimination, but he took away the protections under the Discrimination Act because he suspended it, right? And he made it compulsory. And they couldn't withdraw their $1,500 and they didn't get their supports. It was all gone. Okay? 2007 was the anti-intervention, where it turned nasty. It turned it from something that people could ask for and opt out of to something that was draconian and a trap, right? And the result was that you've got traumatized people that have been on the basics card for 13 years, a whole generation of people that have been on that card and don't know any different. They know how to use it, right? They know how it works and they know how to run in their communities with it. You know what I mean? And they want the choice to be able to say, I don't want it anymore, or I like my basics card, I want to keep it, please. But can we change it? Can I change the amount? Because originally they could. They could choose how much they wanted on their basics card in the beginning. They had the choices. That's what I've been hearing and I've been listening. People like Brian DeBranch are just trolls. He doesn't want to listen. He has been told the truth a million times in the last 3 years on the pages, and he just carries on, blah, 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 right? Calling people liars, people he doesn't know, right? It's just ridiculous. I looked at some of the positive aspects of the FRC program from Cape York. That's a different model again, right? Of course, he probably doesn't even know what that model is or was, because now the cashless debit card is going to take over. It'll be interesting to see how long before their program doesn't work the way it was with the basics card, because the people on the basics card on the FRC program were guaranteed to get off the card in 12 months if they improved everything and they had all the supports put in place. You know what I mean? It was a community run, elders, family, community run program. So, oh dear. Anyway, I wasn't going to respond to him, but I found it offensive that he called Mahalia a liar, despite having the videos there in the thread. I mean, what is this? It's called Hear No Evil, See No Evil, you know. So, Kim Shillingfoot, I volunteered for the basics card. It was wicked, but when it got changed, I got off it pretty quick. I'm glad you were able to get off it, because when it got changed, that was it. It was horrific. All choices were taken away, and then when Labor got in 2010, they reinstated the Racial Discrimination Act, which meant that they couldn't discriminate anymore, and it opened the program up to more people in the Northern Territory. And I believe it changed to, if you've been long-term unemployed for 12 months, then you went on to the basics card. You didn't automatically go on it the minute you lost your job. Not like the cashless debit card. You know what I mean? Cashless debit card, the minute you apply for your payments, bingo, they can put you on it. Right? The First Nations people have struggled around the country. The 5 trial areas that Labor did put in place that were supposed to end, their sunset clause ended in 2017. Unfortunately, this LNP government extended that program, the basics card, and the sunset clause now goes until December 2022, which also lines up with the end of the contract for Indu at December 2022. Okay, so if people want those programs changed, if they want the cashless debit card scrapped, and they want the basics card as a voluntary program, then you need to get rid of the LNP and One Nation so that Labor can make that so. Because the government of the day, come December 2022, are the ones that are going to be able to change those programs. And I can tell you now, ALP's got designs on transferring everybody off the basics onto the cashless debit card, making it permanent forever, period, and rolling it out nationally. Okay? We can't risk that happening. But people like Brian DeBranch will go around calling everybody a liar. I don't know what his problem is. I don't know how old he is. I don't know where he comes from. You know, all I know is he's an idiot because he won't be told. He's been told. And then he goes and copy pastes, you know, the what I call the propaganda bullshit from DSS. Do you know what I mean? But he doesn't have a clue. So, yeah. So, anyway, I don't normally talk about trolls, but he called Mahalia a liar. What is wrong with some of these people? You know, he said, in that statement, what he's saying is he would sit back and watch Mahalia go hungry and her children go hungry. He would sit back and watch her lose her home and sit there going, liar, liar, liar. And he'd watch it all happening in front of him and just deny it all and call her a liar. But he would never dream of helping her, would he? Guess we know what sort of person Brian DeBranch is, don't we? When you deny somebody's life issues and straight out call them a liar, well, while you're trying to defend the LNP's policy, all right, and say that you're against the cashless debit card at the same time, I think the guy's a bit confused. Anyway, I was going to just do this post on my own timeline, and I thought, nah, I'll come and tell you guys about Brian DeBranch. There's another one on here called Scott Jacob. He seems to have reactivated that account because we've had run-ins with him before. I mean, these are the original trolls that popped up when Keith Pitt was trying to push the card in, right? And I must admit, I had a bit of a laugh at Scott because he hasn't been around for a while. And he's going on about, I have a job, right? So people on the cards have jobs too. I have superannuation when he's told, oh, so, and then he says, it's called planning. So I couldn't help myself. When I get tired, I get in a funny mood sometimes. I don't get angry anymore with the trolls. I tend to get a bit sarcastic and pissed off. So I replied to Scott. It didn't tag him. It doesn't expect me. So I said, all the plans of men, lol. See, you still carry on about the same old tripe over the last 3 years. I have a job, blah, blah, blah. I have super, blah, blah, blah. I have a plan, blah, blah, blah. What do you think? You're the only one in the world that does those things? You think you're an island and nothing can go wrong? I asked him, is he a poly? Because only the polys have that much protections, you know what I mean? Ordinary workers don't. I said, you must think you're Superman. Nothing can ever happen to me or go wrong. I have planning, lol. Oh my God. How many people have lost their jobs in the last 12 months that had planning? I'm sorry, but yeah, anyway. Yeah, it's like, so, so Sophie says, I'm exhausted. I think I'm a comedian today. Understand 100%. Sorry, but not sorry, everyone. I have a job. I have 3, actually. I want my medals now. Yes. The trolls, Julie, are absolute morons. They'll come out with any crap. They've called us liars. They've called Say No 7 liars all the time. I don't think they really know who I am, what I do, what Amanda does, what any of us does. He doesn't really care. He just sits there and trolls. Do you know what I mean? As Glennis would put up, she'd have her little troll picture. Yeah, I can just tuck that picture that Glennis uses sometimes, that little green troll. Marie Barton, Mr. Invincible, what a tool, yeah. So sometimes, like I said, I don't normally come on here unless it's a troll that deserves it, okay? And boy, does Brian deserve it after 3 years of, or nearly 4 years of this shit, sorry. But we've had to put up with him. We've just had to put up with him, you know what I mean? Oh, it doesn't affect me, me, mate. I work, says Scott. You know? Doesn't believe it could ever affect him. All right? So, yeah, yeah. So, some people. But that was the only 2 trolls on the Fraser Coast Chronicle page. We used to get 50 million of them type thing. Now they're down to about 5. Well, at the moment, So hang on, he's come back. Do you want to have a good listen? When I said to him, look at the videos, he goes, oh yeah, fake videos by lying political campaigners. It's particularly funny coming from people who advocate for the basics card, which is far more restrictive and punishing. I wouldn't support the Indu program as it stands, however, you're a lying joke, and I hate the deliberate lying even more. Oh, I can block them, Julie, but I prefer to see what fool he wants to make of himself, because I haven't lied to anybody, and neither of Amanda or any of the Say 07 crew. We've brought you every bit of truth there is, and I'm not afraid to say, of course I will support a voluntary program that's not owned by a corporate, where you're not contracted or sold off with it, you know. Mahalia's just had a go at him too, because, you know, he's basically called her fake, and she's put up the crazy card video. So yeah, I don't know why he always does that, why he's always saying that. Fake videos. How can I fake this? I'm sitting in my lounge room. How can I fake this? You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I don't know. He's obviously upset that the balance, you know, is he, he's obviously really upset. Look, in a perfect world, there'd be no income management, right? But there is. And that's the bottom line of it, you know what I mean? And I would rather there be a voluntary system where somebody can choose. See, I used to scream. I used to ring up, and I can tell you now, Jenny Macklin was the minister. And I used to ring up their officers, and I used to scream at them, right, about the basics card and the cashless debit card and forced income, compulsory income management. Take everybody off of it. And there's a lot of confusion between the two different programs from the staffers, right? But the thing I kept running into was staff would say to me, but what do we do with all these people who don't know any different? That went straight over my head back then. I'm going back 2 years ago. That just went straight over my head. My attitude was no forced income management, no compulsory income management, no income management at all, right? What I didn't understand was there's people that have been on income management basics card for a generation. They don't know any different. You can't just rip it out from underneath them. You're going to need to bring in supports, right? You can't just take it away, right? Especially when some of them like it. Some of them don't want it to go away. When they're telling you that, when they're showing you that, when I've got video footage of that, who can argue with that? I can't tell them. I can't speak for First Nations people, right? I can't. I have no right to turn around and say, well, I just think it should be taken away and bugger what you think, when they might like, you know, this is just... Anyway, so to me, a common sense, balanced program where if somebody wants it, they can have it. If they don't like it, they can get off it. If they don't want to keep it, they can get off it. Let people decide for themselves. It's called being self-agency. You know, self-determination, autonomy, having the ability to make your own decisions, which is something that the cashless debit card takes away from people. It's something that compulsory income management takes away from people. But if there's a program there that they can use, right, that they can go on and off of, I can't stand in. So what's he going on about, political campaigner? For a start, I'm not a politician, and I don't belong to any party, right? And at the moment, I'm not going to, well, how can I say it? So straight up, we need to change the government. We need to get rid of Keith Pitt. The Greens won't have a strong enough candidate to kick him out of his seat, but the ALP need the primary vote to kick Keith Pitt out of his seat. That's the way I look at it. You know what I mean? So for me, it's ALP 1, Greens 2, right? And everybody else down the bottom, and LNP and One Nation right down the bottom, right, when it comes time to vote for the House of Reps. And then in the Senate, it's Greens 1 and ALP 2, and then the progressive independents that I know that are against the card will go down my list on the Senate. That's me, right? You know what I mean? That's me. But we need to change the government. Okay? Because there's a lot more at stake here than just the rollout of the cashless debit card. There is the privatisation, a total decimation of our Centrelink system being handed over to Serco as we speak. And the closure of Centrelink offices and aged care not being properly funded and people not being well looked after. And the dismantling of the NDIS, right? And the assessments by these private contracted assessors that are designed to kick people off their supports. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know what I mean? And the rest of it that they've done. And the kicking, you know, the penalty rates losses to workers and the removal of workers' rights and protections. This country cannot afford another 4 years of LNP. We won't have a country left. Right? The white anting of our Medicare system How many people out there right now have to pay for blood tests that they didn't have to pay for before the LNP came in? Or MRIs, or scans, or chemo treatment. You know what I mean? You know, and certain drugs. And it's just, they're destroying everybody. So, yeah. Julie says, what's your tips for the Melbourne Victoria votes? I don't know yet. No, I'm not tipping that at the moment. Chris says, if India did their job properly, this situation wouldn't be so bad. It's not just the government's problem. It's actually Services Australia that are the ones that people are contracted to Indu. But it's Services Australia who control what Indu do, if you know what I mean. So when you want to buy something, you've got to make the application. That's put through to Services Australia, cashless welfare debit card crew. You know what I mean? It's all put through to Services Australia. So Services Australia are the ones doing it, which is the privatised side of Centrelink. Oh, yeah, so Brian's just being a twerp, you know what I mean? That's Brian. He's always been the same. Let him be an idiot. He wants to look like an uneducated fool on a public forum. That's his problem. I've been doing this for 6 years. I know both policies upside down and inside out. It's taken me that long to learn them properly as well, you know what I mean? Yeah, so Sufi Suf says there's something awfully sinister about Impact being in cahoots with Indu, and the fact that they're training up aged and disability workers like crazy, that and denying folk to be able to pay rent or access or even study allowance to do the course and out them on the card. Yeah, I know. Oh, I know. Impact. The previous LNP state member was the CEO of Impact. He's not anymore. He stood down from that position, and he didn't go there. And when he lost his seat, he didn't go back to work for Impact either. But it was just a coincidence, you know, coincidence. They already got last year $500,000 more for so-called, you know, training courses, and now they're going to get probably a quarter of that $30 million that's being dished out for more training courses. Yeah, you know, so they're doing very well for getting paid over and over and over again for the same courses that they put on all the time anyway. So they're doing very well for that. I don't know. I mean, we've got some people who just won't be told. I've just seen another comment on another page that basically is saying that Labor's not going to change a thing. They have been saying what their policy is for the last 3 years. It just seems to be that nobody listens to Linda Burney when she makes her speeches. Right? She has always said in the last 3 years, Labor is against the cashless debit card, but still supports informed consent, voluntary basics card. Right? And it's like, and she's been saying that over and over and over again, and we still keep getting people, you know. Millendar and McCarthy came out and said on the Today Show as well. There is video footage of that, but it's at the end of a lot longer video on her YouTube channel. So I couldn't snip I'm not good at doing stuff like that. So I couldn't snip the ending bit where she said, you know, they will scrap the cashless debit card. You know, and Albanese has confirmed it again. Yeah, anyway. All I know is we need to change the government. That's what we've got to do. The focus is forward, not backwards. Right? We don't change the government, we go backwards. And it gets a lot worse. And austerity kicks in and a lot more people die in this country that don't need to. Simple as that. And as for Brian, well, he can just twaddle off. Because I'm not even going to interact with him. He can call everybody a liar for all I care. You know, I don't know what his problem is or who he is. Maybe somebody might tell me who his little fake account is, you know what I mean? It would be interesting. But if anybody wants to go and talk to Brian, he's on the Fraser Coast Chronicle newspaper article. Yeah, I know Michaela has just been back there twice and had a go. Kelly Marie says it right. Hindu rights removed, basics rights retained. That's right. That's basically it. You know, look, it took a long time. I'll tell you where I learned more about the basics card, all right, was the Darwin Senate inquiry last year. If anybody can pull that up, it was a full day's worth. It was amazing. For the first time in 12 years, we got to hear the voices of all the Aboriginal communities that were speaking up against the cashless debit card, and they were telling the stories of what it had been like with the basics card, and the mixed stories of most of them. A lot of them don't want it, but a lot of them want to keep it. They feel safe with it. And that's when I understood what these people were talking about when they said they wanted choice. And then if you look in our videos and you'll see that video, you'll see, we do not have the right to stand in their way when they're asking for a choice. Bottom line, we just don't have that right. We can't do that. What can I say? Don't know what you think out there. I mean, voluntary, with supports in place, right, with the freedom to be able to get off, the freedom to go on if you want it, right, and the only time that it is imposed on you is by a court order on child safety aspects. I can't see anybody who could find a negative in that. Of course, Brian could. Yes, of course, Brian could. How dare we have something in place for child safety? Yes. You know what I mean? I mean, the biggest thing for these people, if this comes off, is the freedom to have that choice again. And there's a lot that have never had the choice. That'll be unusual, to have your autonomy and your agency that you've never had. And that's when now I understand what certain staffers were screaming back at me on the phone those years ago, right? Because they were listening to those people as well. They were listening. Unlike the LNP and One Nation and people like Brian, who just carry on like twats. What can I say? I'm not going to stand in front of somebody's self-determination, free choice, because I'm sitting here fighting for everybody to have exactly those things. Is the ability to be able to choose and have their autonomy and have their agency. And that's all I've been doing for the last 6 years, is fighting for freedoms. So I'm sorry, but if there are some people out there that want a basics card, that's their free choice. We can't take that away from them. It's the flip side of the coin. And I know that the Greens' attitude is there should be no income management. All right? And in a perfect world, it should never have been started in the first place. They should have been able to come up with something else. Well, originally it was just essentials cards. It was a group of Aboriginal ladies approached Country Labor in Northern Territory and asked, can you give us some sort of card that we can put money onto for our groceries so that our men don't take it all? You know what I mean? That's how it all started. Okay? And they started with essentials cards. And they chose how much they put on it. I can't stand in the way of somebody wanting to do that. You know, the public trust isn't the answer. They take too much money off of people anyway. And they're too controlling, and they don't give enough people autonomy. You know, so, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to say goodnight. And I'll leave you guys to ponder the likes of Brandy Branch. Not to worry. Put it this way, I can't fake these lives. I don't know how I'm supposed to fake. How can I fake it? I don't know. You see me when I'm tired. You see me when I'm worn out. You see me when I'm frustrated. You guys see me when I'm fighting like tooth and nail for everybody. Yeah. I don't think he likes the fact I'm just being me. I'm being human. And I will sit here and tell you guys every card holder story that I have consent to tell you. That word, consent. Okay? All right, guys, I'll say goodnight. Bye.